Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the Akoustyx S6, and these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank Akoustyx for sending over the S6 for review. Do greatly appreciate it. Akoustyx, you rock. So the S6 from Akoustyx. This is a micro planar driver IEM. It will set you back $250. It is currently on sale on the Akoustyx website at the time of this recording for $175. Microplanar dual magnet IEM. It has a frequency response of 10 Hz to 44 kHz, 18 ohms of impedance, 108 decibels of sensitivity. It is tuned for studio reference sound. It comes in this very nice box. You get some pictures, and then on the back you get a few of the specs. On the inside you do get a few accessories, and you're going to get a small, medium, and large pair of foam tips. You're going to get small, medium, and large of silicone tips that are color coded, red for right and blue for left. And then you're going to get a pair of dual flange tips. You're also going to get some of these wing ear hook from Earfit, and they just kind of slide onto the nozzle according to whatever size you need to fit your S6 into the ears. Speaking of the S6, here they are. Now they are extremely small. They are shaped like an L, and they do connect with an MMCX connection. Taking the tip off, you can see the barrel and the nozzle is extremely small. Here's how your wingtip fits on. You can wear them either up or down. You don't have to wear them a certain way. You can choose however you want them to fit in your ears. They do have a very small and thin line on each barrel. Left has a blue line and the right has a red line. That way you can differentiate between which one is which. They just kind of snug right into your ears. Once you kind of have to fiddle around with your wing to determine which way. You can wear them without the wings, but I find that they're more stable with that wing in there. And you can wear it either over the front or the back behind your shirt. The cable connects with MMCX, and when it moves around, you can hear it. It's quite a noisy cable, especially if it's on a harder surface. I found that the cable was not very good at blocking out noises, but the IEMs themselves are very good at isolating outside noises, especially with the foam tips. With the foam tips, you're probably at about 80% of outside noises is blocked. With silicone tips, it probably drops down to about 65% of outside noises being blocked. Overall, I like the build of the S6. I find them to be extremely small. The cable is a little bit annoying with its noisy capabilities, and the MMCX connectors I wish were different. But overall, I like the build of them. They feel durable and nice and light, and they're extremely comfortable, and they isolate outside noises extremely well. Drivability. They are actually fairly easy to drive, especially for a planar IEM. I found that they weren't really that picky when it came to power requirements. Pretty much any dongle was able to drive them. Had no issues there. Where they are very picky, though, is in the sound output of the dongle that you're using or of your desktop. I found that if it was a more sterile, cold, analytical type of sound, the S6 sounded very, very brittle and very, very aggressive in its presentation. Whereas if you use something that had a little bit of warmth to it and was a little bit more engaging, the S6 was way more pleasurable. So do be aware, if you are planning on picking up an S6 from Akoustyx, of what source you are going to use. That way you'll know whether or not it's going to be a more aggressive analytical type of sound, or if it's going to be a little bit more on the lush, pleasurable sound. The S6. Why did I choose to go with foam tips? Well, the S6 is very much upper mids and treble emphasized. It is highly emphasized, very much elevation in that area. And I found that the S6 sounded best with foam tips because it tamed that elevation just a little bit and made it so it wasn't as piercing and as fatiguing and aggressive to my ears as it was with silicone tips. With silicone tips, they were just unlistenable for me. I had to use foam tips. Also, I found that the foam tips were more comfortable. Silicones just didn't quite sit in my ears right and weren't extremely comfortable. Not that they were super uncomfortable. It was just that I found foam tips to be more comfortable with this IEM. Before we get into the sonic impressions and the comparisons to other gear with the S6, I do want to thank my supporters through Patreon and YouTube memberships. Thank you very much for all that you provide to the channel, for the funding that you give through sacrifices of your daily lives is much appreciated. It brings coffee into the office for me to sip while I am listening to gear to do reviews. It also provides funds to be able to purchase gear to review and to compare gear with, and also for gear to produce the videos. So thank you very much for supporting the channel. If you are interested in donating to the channel or supporting the channel, please check out the links down below for Patreon and for YouTube memberships, and also for PayPal. All right, so the Akoustyx S6, this is a micro planar IEM. And as I said, it has a dual magnet driver and 18 ohms and 108 decibels of sensitivity. And frequency response of 10 hertz to 44 kilohertz. The S6, let's start with the bass. The bass of the S6 is authoritative. It has a nice amount of extension into the sub bass. There is a bit of a punch and some slam and some grumble and rumble down there when called upon in tracks. And it is a nice amount of authoritative bass when called upon and when driven correctly. Has good tone, good timbre, very, very high amount of detail, and very resolving. This is a very revealing IEM, and overall I really do enjoy the bass. I do wish that the upper bass was a little bit more emphatic than the mid bass, and the sub bass I wish were just a little bit lower. They can be a little bit too much at times, but overall I really do like the bass a whole lot. Mids. The mids are kind of a hodgepodge of love-hate for me. At times, I really, really enjoy them. And then at others, I'm kind of like disappointed and kind of frustrated. They are a very revealing mid, and they're also very tonally correct. They have very good tone and nice timbre to them. The only problem is note weight is kind of lacking in the lower mids and in the main mids at times. And then the upper mids have a little too much, and the upper mids are very much forward and in your face. They are a very aggressive upper mid. And so it just makes instruments sound uneven, and it can make vocalists also sound a little uneven and unbalanced, and at times be very uncohesive. Other times it sounds very good. It just kind of depends on where in what instruments are being used and where the vocalists kind of lie in the range. And at, like, you take a piano, for example, and you play through the octaves, the lower half octaves of the piano will be very thin sounding, and then the uppers will be a lot more robust and body weight and note weight, and also they kind of climb and getting closer to you and be in a little bit too forward. That upper mid shout is very evident, and the foam tips do help to eliminate that to a degree, but it does not fully fix the issue. They always are very much bold, brash, and at times very aggressive and forward. Treble. The treble is like the upper mids, very bold, brash, aggressive, and very forward. It doesn't go hot, but it is extremely forward, very aggressive, and can be fatiguing. Again, like the mids, with the foam tip that is somewhat fixed, but it's not fully fixed. And you put silicone tips on, and the upper mids and the treble just becomes unbearable. And I could not listen to them whatsoever. But I found that the treble has very good extension, very nice air and space, and it's a very sparkly and energetic, but it is a little too much. And I wish that it was just a little bit lower. And so I find that the S6, when it comes to the sound and of the bass, the mids, and the treble, is somewhat uneven. It's a little unbalanced. You get a lot of bottom end presence, and you get a lot of upper end presence, and then you get some upper mids presence, but the main mids and the lower mids and the upper bass is just kind of lacking. It's a little bit thin, and it causes cohesion problems. And it's I like them at times, and then other times I'm like wanting to rip them out of my ears, and I can't hit the skip button fast enough. Soundstage of the S6 is really good. This is a very realistic sounding stage. It does a very good job of width, and it does a very good job with depth and layering. Things really do play together and mesh together, and they don't mash together and get confused and jumbled and mumbled up. They actually are very articulate and very, very accurate in placement. You can really hone in on the stage, and you can dissect the stage very well. Things move across the stage very well. On some tracks, though, that dipped out mids region will make it sound a little bit hollow and will sound just a little bit off. Tone and timbre. The tone and timbre of the S6 is very good. It has a nice, accurate, natural tone to them. I wish it had a little bit more note weight in certain areas, like the upper bass and lower mids and main mids. But overall, I like the tone and timbre of it. It sounds very natural and true. Detail retrieval. Oh, you like details, you're going to get them with the S6, and you're going to get them by the truckload. It gives you everything you need and more. They're very revealing IEM, and you're not going to miss anything in the mix. And then resolution. They're very resolving. And if you want to know what's wrong with a track, the S6 will tell you. They are extremely resolving and very revealing, and you're going to know it whether or not you want to know it. It is going to tell you, and it's a very honest and accurate and true IEM in that regard. So do I like the S6? Yes. And it has its place. It is very much a analytical, a detail resolving type of IEM, but it's not really for just sitting back and listening to music. To me, I find that it is a little bit too aggressive and too revealing and too brash in its presentation. that it is just not an everyday carry listen for me. How's it compared to a couple other IEMs that are planar? Well, if you're looking for something that's more pleasant and accurate and a little bit less fatiguing and brash and aggressive, look at the TINHIFI P1 Max. The P1 Max has more note weight and more accurate and true in that regard. Also, it has a more natural tone and timbre, and it might not be as detailed, might not be quite as resolving as the S6, but you get just what you need, and very content with the P1 Max is performance in detail retrieval and resolution. The S6 is a lot more aggressive and a lot more forward in its presentation. It gives you a lot more information, but the presentation just doesn't sound as natural as it does on the P1 Max. And then you have the S12, and the S12 will give you just about as much detail retrieval and resolution as the S6, but it does it in a less fatiguing, a less aggressive way. And also the Shure S12 is more pleasurable and more natural sounding in tone and timbre and overall balance and cohesion. So I find that the P1 Max and the S12 are more balanced and more cohesive and are more enjoyable to listen to. But if you're looking for every single detail and every single little thing that you can nitpick in a track, and you like forward aggressive mids and treble, then the S6 may be something to enjoy. But for me, it comes in little increments here and there. I can't sit and listen to the S6 for long periods of time, but I can nitpick a track apart. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next videos, somewhere on screen, subscription links, notification bells. If you haven't already, please check those off. If you hit that notification bell, you'll know when the next video is uploaded from the Honest Audiophile. Check out the links down below. There's all kinds of information down there regarding how you can contact the channel, follow the channel, support the channel. All that kind of stuff is down below. Also, there is a tier list down there. There's music recommendations and gear recommendations and all kinds of other things are down below. So check out those links. And then don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy.